Kiana Herring and Asil El-Ghali will answer the question, is President Trump's policy of separating immigrant children philosophically justified? According to Nigel Warburton, the four main justifications of state punishment are deterrence, retributivism, protection of society, and reform. We will be applying the four main justifications of state punishment to President Donald Trump's zero-tolerance policy, specifically the separation of immigrant families at the border. Deterrence is the idea that punishment will decrease the chance of others committing the crime. Attorney General Jeff Sessions declared, "We will prosecute you, and that child will be separated from you as required by law. If you don't like that, then don't smuggle children over our border." The criticism of deterrence is that it is ineffective. The separation of families is used as a scare tactic to stop families from crossing the border, but the graph shows that since the practice has been enacted, there has not been a decrease in immigrants. Therefore, deterrence as justification of separating families is invalid. Since the data shows that deterrence as justification for the separation of families does not work, there now needs to be consideration of a new punishment that minimizes immigration, possibly by applying the utilitarianism perspective, which holds that we should increase pleasure while minimizing harm. This new punishment would need to minimize the harm of the immigrants, and this would increase the pleasure of those who want minimal immigration. This is the most effective because America would no longer be viewed in a negative light for the inhumane practice. Retributivism is the view that those who intentionally break the law deserve the punishment they get and to suffer. President Trump exemplified this view when he declared, "When you prosecute the parents for coming in illegally, which should happen, you have to take the children away." The criticism of retributivism is that it pays no attention to the effects on the criminal or society. In this instance, the criminal is the immigrant, and they suffer from emotional or psychological trauma from the separation. The effect on American society also has had significant impacts. There have been protests across the country condemning the practice, and there has been disapproval from both sides of the political spectrum. Legal action has been taken, and the U.S. has been scrutinized on the world stage. The outcry against the separation of family proves that the criticism of retributivism is accurate. The emotional state of the immigrants and the moral values of American society were ignored when this practice was put into place. The task now is to find a punishment that takes these factors into consideration. The immigrants may have broken the law by crossing the border, and for that some may feel they deserve punishment. But the punishment should be fitting of the crime. It is difficult in this case because you cannot quantify crossing the border, and therefore the punishment may not be objective. Using retributivism as defense of separating the families is invalid, but using it to defend another, more fitting punishment should be valid.
Protection of society is the idea that punishment will protect society from people intentionally breaking the law. In one of Donald Trump's tweets, he states, "The fake news is not mentioning the safety and security of our country when talking about illegal immigration. Our immigration laws are the weakest and worst anywhere in the world, and the Dems will do anything not to change them and to obstruct. Want open borders, which means crime." This idea kind of shows how Donald Trump believes illegal immigration is a harm to society. He also has stated in previous tweets how illegal immigrants are affecting our economy negatively. Criticism of this justification is that it's only relevant to some crimes, certainly not immigration, and also that this justification is only temporary because people teach others how to get away with crimes, and people who are illegally entering this country are entering it for the sake of their living conditions and threats back in their home countries. So more and more illegal immigrants are going to enter the country to escape the horrid conditions. Also, looking at the data provided, immigration and crime rates have little to no correlation, which studies have shown, and the idea of dehumanizing the immigrants, that is what's going to cause conflicts and aggression that can end up harming society. The last justification for punishment is reform, which is the idea that punishment will change the criminal's character so that they can no longer commit the crime. Trump states, "I'm going to go very shortly for authorization that when countries abuse us by sending their people up, not their very best, we are not going to give any more aid to those countries." Trump is using this punishment in hopes of interrupting the illegal immigration from these countries. The problem with this punishment is that it's only relevant for certain crimes and people, so the wrong people may be harmed. For example, one-time criminals, or on another note, the people who are beyond reforms, there's no point in even punishing them. Immigration is occurring due to crises that are happening in other countries, so these people are desperate. Little does Trump know that his threat means nothing to the thousands of families because they are seeking safety. This punishment also brings up the idea that he is trying to evoke fear in the immigrants of what can happen to them. The quote on the right shows a study that has been performed showing that it has starting to affect immigrants who have reason to feel their immigration status is insecure, and it's also trickling down to the U.S. citizen children of immigrants, and even their children's classmates. It's starting to shape their behaviors and weighing down their inner lives, which demonstrates that the wrong kind of people are becoming worried, leading to increased distress, anxiety, and depression. Overall, after analyzing the 4 justifications of Trump's child separation policies, there are many counter-arguments that can weaken each justification. Extra theories that you can look at are the concepts of negative and positive freedoms, which differ by the presence or absence of a controlling force causing an influence. They relate to this topic because removing freedom is a form of punishment. This idea led to philosophers creating 4 main justifications with contractualist and deontological positions. We have also discussed the idea of a utilitarian perspective, which in the end may be very problematic, therefore leading us to the overall idea that finding a solution and fair punishment for illegal immigration is very tricky.